Fastest way to lose any game is to think you're the only one playing. Welcome to day 3 of starting your side hustle. We're taking 28 days, 28 small steps to help you and me build a side hustle that's meaningful, impactful, profitable. Today's questions are designed to build on your why and what, days 1 and 2, so you can understand who's doing what you're doing or something similar. If day 1 was the initial spark, your why, and day 2 was gently blowing on it to create a small flame, your what, day 3 is about figuring out who already lights up the world, because you can learn from the light. Here are today's 2 questions. 1, who are your direct and indirect competitors, and what do they do better than you? 2, what gaps in the market are they leaving wide open for you to fill? Competitive analysis isn't about copy, not really. It's about understanding where you can stand out and serve your audience in ways others can't or won't. These 2 questions matter because they help you hustle smarter. They keep you from going into business blind. They force you to know the playing field, who's offering similar products or services. Those are your direct competitors, and who's solving similar problems differently or targeting different audiences. Those are your indirect competitors. Figuring out what those direct and indirect competitors do better than you, whether it's some cool functionality they have, some interesting branding, better customer service, better distribution, whatever it is that makes them worth spending money on, gives you a blueprint for improving your hustle. Because here's what no one else tells you. They, your current competitors, don't have the time. They're heads down running their businesses, and that's an advantage for you. You should be using your time to learn from their successes, to avoid their mistakes, to stand on their shoulders. A good example here would be Melanie Perkins, the co-founder of Canva. She knows that design software was expensive and intimidating, dominated by giants like Adobe. Instead of competing head-on, she focused on the gap, people who wanted simple, beautiful design tools. Perkins pitched her idea over 100 times before getting funding, but her obsession with that underserved audience turned Canva into a $40 billion company. Lesson there, biggest opportunities come from what your competitors ignore, what they get wrong. The other lesson, 100 times, persistence, super skill number 4, and focus, super skill number 1, because overlooked needs can turn a small business into a category-defining business. So why does this day 3 exercise matter? Super simple answer. You don't want to waste your time, energy, resources on ideas that don't stand a chance, that don't stand on the shoulders of the hustlers already dominating the market. Once you understand what your competitors are doing and why they're doing it, the way they're doing it, you can figure out how to be different, how to be better. That was question number 1. Doing your homework now while eating your lunch saves you from costly missteps later. Every moment spent on analysis is an investment in smarter execution. Okay, let me put up a competitor matrix that I developed for my current hustle, and I'll explain it after we do the 21-day MBA section. Second question, what gaps in the market are they leaving wide open for you to fill? This is where the real magic happens. Gaps represent that's catnip. Maybe a competitor has a great product, but terrible customer service. Maybe they cater to a broad audience, but ignore a really cool niche. The point is that taking your time to think through these gaps lets you offer what's missing. You can do mostly what they do, be Pepsi to their Coke, but you're going to need something unique about your hustle that disrupts their BAU, their business as usual. Keep telling yourself that the most successful side hustles are just different from their competitors. They're different in a way that matters to a specific group of people. That's a theme we're going to keep covering over the next month. It's why you should always be on the lookout for niches. You know how my hustler version of that is riches from niches. And then fight the urge to end it with the B word, which is Okay, take a moment, try to answer the day 3 questions for your hustle without AI. And before you listen to the next section, the 28-day Ivy-League MBA section, I personally think it's useful to try to answer these questions without AI first. But if you'd rather do that, the AI teaching assistant prompt will drop with today's case study in a couple hours. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Lunch Break Millionaire Day 0 or go over to superserious.com where I'm posting daily transcripts. The AI prompts are there too. That's it. Hustle smarter. Stop me now. Your hustle risks blending into a crowded market as yet another generic Panera-type turkey sandwich. Day 3, part 2 of Lunch Break Millionaire, where we turn whatever you're eating for lunch into an Ivy League MBA degree. It's Sandwich Wednesday. I don't know what that means. That's what I had for my lunch. Anyway, I'd recommend eating what I eat, a banh mi, which is a Vietnamese French sandwich that really stands out, just like your hustle needs to. So today's MBA lesson, competitive analysis with something called Porter's 5 Forces Framework. The fancy MBA term for what we're talking about today, differentiation. Without it, your hustle risks blending into a crowded market as yet another generic Panera-type turkey sandwich. Not cool, because your future customer needs a compelling reason, aside from price, to choose you. Fancy MBA way of saying that is you need a unique value proposition, one that sets you apart, one that builds loyalty from the poor folks suffering from that gap, because that's your hustle's unique value proposition, your promise to your customer. You're literally saying, here's what you get from me, customer, that you can't get anywhere else. If you want more big MBA words, that's at the heart of strategic prioritization, because what is strategy in plain English? It's focus. Your focus. Your competitors right this second are heads down, underwater, maintaining their business as is, rather than growing that business as something different or better. And that fact of life, that your competitors are distracted by their day jobs, gives you a path to win over their customers by solving problems they're too busy to fix. Okay, let's get you some MBA skills. Let's talk about Porter's 5 Forces. This little picture. Let's break it down in plain English, not MBA speak. Because this is one of those frameworks that sounds complicated, but once you get it, you'll start seeing your entire industry with new eyes. Here's the big idea. Every business, every hustle is playing on a field shaped by 5 forces. These forces decide if you're in a gold rush or if you're fighting for scraps. And if you don't know what they are, you're basically wandering into battle with a blindfold on. So what are the 5 forces? First, you got rivalry. How many other hustlers are out there doing what you do? There's a ton, and they're all good. You're going to have to work harder for every dollar. Then there's the threat of new entrants. How easy is it for someone else to jump in and copy what you're doing? If it's super easy, you'll always be looking over your shoulder. Next, supplier power. This is about the folks you rely on for your raw materials, your software, your whatever. If there are only a few suppliers and they know you need them, they can jack up those prices and make your life hell. And there's number 4, buyer power. The people buying your stuff. If they have a million options, they can demand lower prices or better service, and you'll have to deliver or lose them. And last, substitutes. What else could your customers use instead of your thing? Sometimes the biggest threat isn't another hustler. It's a totally different way of solving the same problem. Here's why this matters to today's questions. When you're looking at your direct and indirect competitors, you're actually mapping out rivalry, who's already in the game, and what are they doing better than you. That's the heart of competitive rivalry. When you're thinking about the gaps in the market, you're sniffing out places where the other 4 forces might be weak. Maybe there aren't a lot of good substitutes, or maybe buyers don't have as much power as they think. Maybe it's hard for new entrants to break in, or maybe you found a way to work with suppliers that gives you an edge. Take a second. Sketch out your hustle's industry and 5 forces. Who are the biggest rivals? How crowded is the field? How easy would it be for someone new to jump in? Are your suppliers calling the shots, or do you have options? Are your buyers in control, or are they desperate for what you offer? And what could your customers use instead of your product or service? Be brutally honest. The more clearly you see these forces, the clearer your strategy gets. Let's make this real. Imagine you're launching a new app for creators like I am. Your rivalry is all the other platforms: Patreon, Substack, TikTok, Instagram. The threat of new entrants? Pretty high, because tech moves fast and anyone with funding could try to build the next big thing. Plenty of folks are trying it right now. Supplier power? Maybe you're relying on cloud services or payment processors. If there are only a couple good ones, they can squeeze you. Buyer power? If creators have a million places to go, they'll demand more features for less money. It's that simple. Substitutes? Maybe your biggest threat isn't another app, but creators deciding to just use email or Discord or something totally different. For a lot of hustles, your biggest competitor is the comfort of a warm bed that your customer just doesn't want to get out of in the morning. Keep telling yourself, the goal isn't just to survive in your market. It's to find the spots where you can win. Porter's 5 forces helps you see where the pressure is coming from and where you might have a little breathing room. If you know which force is strongest, you can build your strategy around it. If rivalry is fierce, maybe you focus on a niche. Riches from niches, bitches. If new entrants are a threat, maybe you double down on what makes you hard to copy. If buyers have all the power, maybe you find a way to make your offering sticky so they don't want to leave. This is why today's questions matter. When you ask who your competitors are and what they do better, you're looking rivalry right in the face. When you hunt for market gaps, you're looking for places where the other forces are weaker, where you can sneak in and build something that lasts. Take a sec and map out your 5 forces for your hustle. Write them down, say them out loud. If you get stuck, use the AI prompt in the post description later today. If you're feeling bold, share your map in the comments or in a DM to me. Let's see where the pressure is and where the opportunities might be hiding. And keep telling yourself, every hustler who makes it big starts by seeing the game for what it is. That's how you hustle smarter. Don't stop me now. You can admire a company and figure out what they're doing wrong because you can do it right. Day 3, part 3 of Lunch Break Millionaire. This is the segment where we #build in public. I answer the daily question from part 1 using the MBA skills we just learned in part 2 and showing my work here in part 3, sharing how I'm building my hustle from scratch. No filters, just the real journey. You don't need to actually like or subscribe. I'm not doing this for the clicks, but if you're leveling up from other creators you follow or know personally, introduce us. I want to learn from them and help them level up too. We all deserve better than just making rich people richer. Okay, let's apply day 3's questions to my current side hustle. Question 1 was, who are your direct and indirect competitors and what do they do better than you? I'll put it up here and you can also see the answers on superserious.com, the blog, where I post all my transcripts. But fundamentally, this is the list. Feedly, BuzzSumo, Hub Content, Substack, Patreon, Instagram, TikTok. Makes sense, right? I chatbotted the hell out of content curation companies. I use Perplexity AI because it's built for research. That's not a plug. Use whatever you want to use. I mapped out both direct and indirect competitors. Direct competitors were tools and platforms focused on content creation, like, again, Feedly, BuzzSumo, Hub Content. Indirect competitors were platforms creators rely on, like Substack, one I love, Patreon, and even the big guys, TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. Just wanted to understand who was solving similar problems and who was targeting similar audiences. So step 2 was the deep dive SWOT analysis, right? I'm going to put it up here. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So what SWOT stands for, SWO. Okay, whatever. Again, I did this with Perplexity. For each competitor, the prompt I wrote conducted a SWOT analysis and figured out its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, the results of which were strengths. The existing platforms had massive user bases and strong brand recognition. Their weaknesses were they prioritized profits over creator needs. Algos controlled everything. That's a huge weakness in my mind. Opportunities, creators wanted ownership of their audience and revenue, but lacked the tools to achieve that. And then the threats, competitors could pivot toward creator empowerment if they saw the demand growing. But to be fair, if they did, at least the big ones, the TikToks and the Instagrams of the world, would lose massive amounts of revenue that they get from advertising, where they're monetizing creators essentially and their content. Okay, step 3, a beautiful prompt about market positioning for each of the competitors, essentially letting AI take the first shot at finding gaps. I tweaked the prompt a couple of times, but essentially I got to 3 broad themes, right? Theme number 1 was creators versus platforms. Most of my potential competitors treat creators like renters on their platforms rather than owners. This was a very deeply personal insight and it became my North Star because empowering creators to own their platforms, their audiences, and their profits is meaningful to me as a creator, but also just as a human being. Theme 2, real-time personalization. None of the competitors in this space embedded curated experiences directly into users' browsing journeys. They all centralized content into dashboards or newsletters, but didn't meet users where they already were. That's the difference, if you remember, between arrogant design, theirs, and humble design, the thing I'm shooting for. I'd fill the gap by integrating creators' content into their audience's digital destinations in real time. And then theme 3, monetization opportunities. Competitors focused on subscription fees or ad revenue models, but didn't offer direct monetization tools for creators to profit from their work independently. Our products could really change that dynamic in time. Step 4 was the obvious, our differentiation, which in 3 words is be the algo. I don't know why I find that so cool. The exercise forced me to answer the hardest question of all. What makes us different? The answer was clear: ownership and empowerment. While other platforms focused on keeping creators dependent on them and their algos, our product would give creators the tools to bypass traditional platforms entirely. Just use them as audience funnels, which we're going to talk about next week. We could help creators be the algo, giving them direct engagement with their audiences without interference and without profit sharing from middlemen. We analyzed 18 different competitors across the content curation space. Direct competitors, Feedly, BuzzSumo, they all excel at aggregation and analytics, but lack real-time personalization or creator-first monetization tools. Indirect competitors like Patreon, Substack, they empower creators, but still keep them tethered to shared platforms rather than offering true ownership. 3 market gaps we're filling are real-time integration into browsing journeys. No one else does that. Creator-owned platforms that bypass algos entirely. That's a game changer. And monetization tools that prioritize creator profits over platform profits. Key takeaways for me were that my competitors are my teachers. While I still have time, I should study them relentlessly. Their strengths, their weaknesses and blind spots. If you go to a really great restaurant, you don't just go, what do they do well? You think, what aren't they doing? And you zero in on that gap, right? Restaurant, any other business, it's the same thing. You can admire a company and figure out what they're doing wrong because you can do it right. Gaps are gold mines. That's the second takeaway. Same theme though. Nothing makes me happier than finding unmet needs or underserved audiences. That's catnip if you're looking to stand out. And my other takeaway, my final one, was that differentiation is survival. Without a unique value proposition, we talked about UVPs, my hustle risks blending into a crowded market. For my current hustle, these insights have led me to double down on empowering creators with ownership, giving them tools to bypass algos and build independent businesses that thrive on authenticity and connection.